Thanks so much for tuning in. We here at Sandberg's Student Services Leadership Team strive to help students plan for life after high school, and we hope that this podcast can be a tool for evaluating your post-secondary options and opportunities. We hope you enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome to our fourth podcast. We are here with Miss Mandy Hart from Amherst College. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here.
It's me, Sean Harlan, podcast host, along with Julia Canales. So to start off, Julia, would you like to start?
Sure. So could you explain to us your role that you play in the Amherst community?
Yeah, so my official title is Associate Dean of Admission and Coordinator for Diversity Outreach. And what we do in admission at Amherst is much more selection oriented. I think a lot of admission offices are really focused on recruitment and marketing. At Amherst, we're a highly selective institution, so we do a lot of work in December, January, February, and March trying to select the students that are going to be offered admission. I also mentioned that I'm the coordinator for diversity outreach, so I make sure that the students that we're recruiting are really going to reflect the diversity of our student body at Amherst College.
Awesome. What makes Amherst stand out from other universities?
Well, a couple things. At Amherst, we are a college, so a college means that we only offer one degree type, and at Amherst, it's a bachelor's degree. So we're different than a university in the sense that there are no students that are seeking master's degrees or PhDs or associate's degrees. Everyone that's there is seeking a bachelor's degree. But we're different from other colleges, first and foremost, because of our curriculum. We have what's called an open curriculum, which means that we don't have any general education requirements for graduation. So at Amherst, students take 32 total classes and they complete at least one major. And outside of that, they decide what they want to do with their curriculum. They say, here's the classes that I want to take. And we say, yep, sounds good. That's cool. Have fun. We're also different. I mentioned the diversity of our student body. Amherst is one of the most diverse liberal arts colleges in the U.S. We also fulfill 100% of students' demonstrated financial need without using any loans in the package for every single student that's on campus, regardless of their citizenship, regardless of how they applied, whether it was early decision or if they were admitted off the wait list, whether they transferred. None of that matters. We fulfill all of students' demonstrated need. And the only other schools that do that are Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. Last thing that makes us a little different is that we're part of a consortium of colleges. And so you can take classes at other college campuses in our immediate area. I didn't mention where we're located. We are in Western Massachusetts, so in the mountains of Massachusetts.
So I know that you mentioned that you are a highly selective school. Are there any distinctive features of a student's application that you look for or would like to see?
Yeah, so I think about the admission process in a couple of ways. I've actually worked at 3 other institutions. I've been doing admission for 11 years, and I've been at Amherst for 5 years. And I've worked at lots of other kinds of institutions with varying selectivity. I've worked at a large public university in Ohio, and I actually conceptualize the admission process as working in the same ways, even though we have different outcomes, because every school is trying to achieve 2 goals. We're trying to make sure that students have the potential to be successful in our classrooms. And obviously our classrooms look different from each other. And we're also trying to determine how the student is going to enhance the community that we have. So I think of those 2 things as being fundamental to the admission process, no matter where you're applying. It's just that those, if you think of them in the way that I do, they're like if you're running a hurdles race and you have to get over these 2 hurdles. The hurdles look a little different from school to school because, again, our classrooms are different. They're perhaps, like at Amherst College, very discussion-oriented. So we want to see, how might have you contributed to discussions in the classroom up to this point? And you may have a very competitive applicant pool like we do at Amherst. So getting over that academic hurdle is not necessarily the hard part for our applicants. It's actually more about figuring out how students are contributing to the community in a positive way that actually distinguishes the applicant pool from each other. But whenever you're thinking about applying to college, all these colleges are really trying to do those 2 assessments.
If we may ask, what is your most recently reported admissions rate?
This past cycle, we admitted 10.8% of the students that applied for admission. Yeah.
So in the application process, do incoming students apply to like specific schools within Amherst or the university as a whole?
Yeah, so as a liberal arts college, we don't admit students into a specific major. So we admit students to the college. And actually, the really interesting thing about that is that we actually have to be pretty sure that a student can be successful in any of our majors, because you can do anything when you come to a liberal arts college. So I'll give you the example that at Amherst College, the lowest level of math that we offer is calculus. And so even if you are only interested in the humanities and maybe the social sciences where there isn't a math component to the major, and as I mentioned before, we have an open curriculum with no general education requirements, we still need to make sure that you've gone through at least pre-calculus, just in case when you get to Amherst, you say, you know what, I want to take a math class. We know that you have the foundation there, but we're not admitting students into any specific major at all.
And we know you briefly touched on the financial aid, but could you maybe walk us through the structure of your system? Like, is it need-based, merit-based, or need-blind?
Yeah, definitely. So with such a low acceptance rate, we believe that the merit that you demonstrate is the ability to be admitted. So we don't have merit-based scholarships. All of our financial aid that we give is need-based financial aid. And what we do is we take the FAFSA and the CSS profile, which are two very lengthy and challenging documents, and we calculate your expected family contribution, or your EFC. And the long and short of it, I could kind of go through the process and how it works, but basically your expected family contribution is all that we expect students to pay to attend Amherst, and that includes transportation to and from home. So if you're flying from Chicago to Western Massachusetts, that's going to cost you money. We put that into the financial aid packaging. We put the cost of books into the financial aid packaging. We put a $2,200 personal expense stipend into the financial aid budget, which is designed to cover literally like pizza, shampoo, soap, like extra long twin sheets, stuff that are just incurred expenses of going away to college. So we put that into your financial aid budget, and that's what your expected family contribution is compared to. And again, I think the simplest way to describe it is to say that your expected family contribution is all that you pay to attend Amherst College.
So transitioning
Sorry.
So transitioning over onto academics, how do you think being a liberal arts school benefits students today?
That's a really good question. And I think that there's a lot of national debate around, like, what are liberal arts colleges doing for America? And there is a longitudinal study that was done about 10 years ago, if you're really like trying to geek out about this stuff, which I am. But there's a study called Project LEAP, which is called Liberal Education and America's Promise, that was conducted by the Association of American Colleges and Universities to talk about, well, why is liberal arts education important for where we are as a country today? But I think that for me, I will tell you again, I've worked at lots of other schools, and I went to a liberal arts college and I got my master's studying higher education in the United States. And I was actually a researcher on that LEAP project. And I really didn't understand what liberal arts was until my second job out of graduate school. So it's a nebulous concept. And I think for me, the best way to understand it is to think about, what is the purpose of a bachelor's degree? Well, the purpose is that you're going to have a skill set that you study. So you have to have a major when you go to college. So you have a skill area. But there's also a secondary major of getting a bachelor's degree, and that's to create a launch pad for long-term success. And what liberal arts colleges do is we say there are certain competencies that are critical for that long-term success. Things like the ability to communicate, both in writing and verbally, the ability to collaborate with people who both are similar to you, but also different from you. The ability to ask really big, important questions and to figure out solutions to big, important problems. And what liberal arts colleges do is they elevate those outcomes so that they're just as important as the skills that you're getting through your major. So to me, the question is actually better, why don't more people care about what liberal arts is doing for the U.S.? This is about creating our future leaders and really promoting those competencies just as much as the skill sets that you get.
What are your most popular majors?
So liberal arts colleges are a little different in that again, because we admit students not to specific programs, we actually see a really wide distribution across the majors. Amherst is in a unique position too, being a highly selective liberal arts college where we have really renowned faculty members in all of our academic departments that in many cases have the opportunity to be faculty at Ivy League institutions or Research One institutions, but they choose to come to a liberal arts college like Amherst because they want to work with undergraduate students. They want to have undergraduate students as their research assistants. And so at Amherst, there isn't that one major that's like, oh, this is the academic department that we're most well known for. We have some really unique programs like a major called Law, Jurisprudence, and Social Thought, which is a very interesting major that many other campuses don't have. By the numbers, economics is the most popular major, but we also see that about 3/4 of students that do an economics major actually have another major also. So it's a very popular double major. If you were to combine biology, chemistry, and biochemistry, biophysics, those three majors combined would by far be the most popular major if they were one. But we, again, see this very wide distribution across majors.
So I know you touched on it a little, but what is your policy on double majoring?
Yeah, so being an institution that has an open curriculum where there's no general education requirements, it's actually incredibly accessible to double major. So just under half of the graduates last year had a double major at Amherst. So if you think about it just mathematically, if you have to take 32 classes before you graduate, the national average for majors is somewhere between 8 and 12 classes. So let's just say hypothetically you want to major in 2 disciplines that have no overlap at all. I'll take an example of someone who is an Amherst College grad who works in the admission office. He was a physics and philosophy major at Amherst. They don't overlap at all. There's no overlap between physics and philosophy. The physics major is 12 classes and the philosophy major is 10 classes. So that's 22 classes that are going to be major classes earmarked as major requirements. That still leaves 10 classes left in your curriculum or 2.5 semesters where you just take whatever you want. So it's very easy for students to double major at Amherst, and so it's very popular.
Is studying abroad an option? And if so, what are your most popular destination programs?
Yeah, so we have 175 partner programs. Again, about half of the students at Amherst will study abroad. Again, because it's so accessible curricularly, you have so much flexibility in the curriculum. And then also because of financial reasons, it will never cost you more to be abroad than it would cost you to be at Amherst, including, again, the airfare to and from your location. And we also put in a personal travel stipend into that financial aid budget so that you can travel around if you're in a location that you've never been before.
That sounds awesome. So to what extent are internships incorporated into a major's fulfillment requirements?
So they're never going to be required for students, but many students will do an internship. We are on a semester schedule, so we offer classes in the fall and spring semesters. We do not offer classes over the summer or any other time of year. And so we expect that the summertime is the time of year that students will do an internship. And they work with our Loeb Center for Career Exploration and Planning to get hooked up with an internship. We have a process where we will actually pay students to have unpaid internships if that's something that will help them with their long-term goals. And again, it's never going to be part of the systematic requirements for graduation, but it's something that many of our students will do. I've never seen a student graduate from Amherst College who did not either do an internship or do undergraduate research over the summer.
What are your average class sizes and student-to-teacher ratios?
Yeah, so our student to faculty ratio is 8-1, and our classes are, generally speaking, going to be 16, 17 students. Even our introductory level classes are really small. You'll see the introductory science classes as the largest classes, and those have 60 students in them. And even those classes of 60 will have breakout sessions where they break into groups of 20 and have discussions with faculty. So again, achieving those liberal arts outcomes, it doesn't happen on its own. We have to have what we think of as co-construction of knowledge, meaning you bring perspectives with you when you get to college, and those perspectives are important and they're valuable and they don't go away when you sit in a classroom where someone's just talking at you. And so being at Amherst College means that you're bringing those perspectives with you and they matter in the classroom, and it's about integrating your perspective with the perspective of your peers. So that discussion orientation is going to be part of all of the academic disciplines that we have.
Does Amherst have an honors program?
We do not. Again, being a highly selective school, it is an honors program in a sense.
Transitioning to a bit more student life. What's the Greek life like on campus?
We actually don't have Greek life at Amherst College. Yeah.
Do you think that having a smaller school makes it easier for Midwestern students to adapt to the East Coast community?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I am originally from Florida. I spent 6 years in Ohio before moving to New England. And I think that New England it's different. It's a whole different culture. But I think that our location actually really helps because of the fact that we're in a location that is very outdoors oriented. Really the nicest people in New England live in what we call it the Happy Valley, which is where Amherst is located. But I also think that when you choose a place like Amherst, you're choosing a supportive community. And so, I think whenever you go away to college or you're in a new place, there's always going to be a transition. And transitions can be challenging. So it's about thinking about what kind of support structures are in place for you when you have a challenge in that transition. And small colleges can really provide a lot of support.
What would members of the community say they're most proud of about your school?
So our president, her name is Biddy Martin, and she's super cool. But she said something about Amherst 5 years ago right when I arrived at Amherst that really stuck with me. And I think that it really describes the community really well and the reasons that we're proud to be Amherst College students. She said that Amherst is a diverse intellectual community where all three of those words matter. And that really hit home for me because I think that that's something that the Amherst student population is really proud of. The diversity of our student body, the way that we intellectualize basically everything that can be intellectualized. When Beyonce came out with Lemonade, I was with a bunch of students and they were projecting it in the admission office. We were having a meeting and I saw these students approaching this piece of media from so many different disciplines and perspectives. And I was like, I'm not smart enough to be in this room. So I feel like I need to turn around and leave. And it was just a really cool way for me to see, coming to Amherst from somewhere else, that our students are really, super intellectual in ways that applies to every part of their life. And we're a community. I think that one of the things that I was also a little bit not sure about when I arrived at Amherst was if the student body was going to be really competitive, because it is, tough to be admitted to Amherst. And we're talking about the top of the top in terms of, where students have come from. And what I found was a community that really understood that the successes of their peers reflects their successes better, and really a community that lifts each other up. And so that phrase really, rings in my head about why students are really proud to be at Amherst. Yeah, so I think that, again, the transition is tough. Anytime you take on a new opportunity or a new challenge, there's going to be a transition point. And I think that it's about really understanding that when you get to college, especially if you go away to college, everyone's going through that transition. And so it's also about having that internal knowledge to know that your transition isn't any easier or harder than other people's, and any support that you can give to your peers is important and valuable. So that's definitely something that I wish more first-year students would know.
Thank you so much.
You so
yeah,
much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, my name is Hazem Zeden and I'm the podcast editor for the SSLT. It would be greatly appreciated if you guys filled out a survey. Let us know how we did and where we can improve. Thank you very much for listening.